1939, the world goes to war. 1939 was the year denial ended. For a decade, Americans had looked inward by necessity. The Great Depression had demanded attention, energy, and survival. Foreign affairs were something to be read about, not worried over. But in 1939, distance stopped mattering. The world did not slide into war quietly, it exploded into it. And even though the United States would not formally enter the conflict for 2 more years, 1939 changed everything. How American thought, planned, built, and feared. This is 1939, the year war returned to the world and America felt its pull. At the start of 1939, the American economy was finally stabilizing. The rebound from 1937-38 downturn was real. Industrial production rose, employment improved modestly, consumer confidence returned cautiously. The Depression was not over, but the free fall had stopped. Americans were learning to live with uncertainty. The fragile process made the news from overseas even more unsettling. Franklin Roosevelt understood something many Americans did not yet want to accept. War abroad would not stay abroad. Roosevelt walked a tightrope. The nation remained deeply isolationist. Congress restricted arms sales and involvement. The public remembered World War I bitterly, yet Roosevelt knew that American security was tied to global stability. 1939 forced him to prepare quietly, carefully, without provoking panic or backlash. In September 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland. Diplomacy collapsed, appeasement ended, Britain and France declared war. World War II had begun. The speed of the invasion stunned the world. Blitzkrieg warfare rendered old strategies obsolete overnight. For Americans, the news felt unreal until it didn't. War was no longer theoretical. It was happening now. The United States declared neutrality, but neutrality was no longer simple. The Neutrality Acts limited aid to nations at war. Public opinion opposed intervention, but sympathy increasingly favored Britain and France. Roosevelt pushed for revisions, cash and carry arms sales, expanded naval patrols, quiet military preparedness. America was not at war, but America was preparing for the possibility. 1939 marked the early transformation of American industry. Factories were still civilian, but planning shifted. Aircraft production increased, shipyards expanded, research into new weapons accelerated. The Depression-era economy began evolving into something else. A war economy was taking shape, slowly, reluctantly, but inevitably. American culture reflected anxiety. Movies remained popular, but themes darkened. Radio broadcasts grew more serious. News became unavoidable. Families gathered not just for entertainment, but for updates. The innocence of the early 1930s was gone. the world felt dangerous again. Domestically, crime was no longer a national obsession. The gangster era was finished. Federal law had matured. Public attention shifted from outlaws to armies. Americans craved stability and found it increasingly in national unity. Though most Americans still opposed entering the war, attitudes shifted subtly. The fall of Poland shocked the nation. The speed of German victories unsettled observers. The idea that oceans guaranteed safety seemed less certain. America was not ready to fight, but it was no longer confident it could avoid fighting forever. Roosevelt faced a new challenge. Economic recovery was no longer the central issue. National security was. He could not move faster than the people, but he could prepare them. 1939 marked the beginning of a quiet transformation, from recovery to readiness, from isolation to awareness, from denial to preparation. 1939 ended the illusion that America could remain untouched by global events. The Depression had reshaped the nation. Now war would reshape the world. Americans stood at the edge, still neutral, still hesitant, but watching history accelerate. The waiting had begun. Well, let's get into some segment grading. Again, 1939, we weren't in the war yet. So the economy, the stabilizing recovery with early signs of industrial mobilization, you got to give it a B. Leadership and governance, careful strategic leadership in a divided nation. Boy, I'd have to give it a B minus because I still think they had their head in the sand. Military and preparedness, early movement, but limited by public opinion and law. Another B minus. Culture and morale, growing seriousness replaced denial. B. Crime and law enforcement, domestic stability maintained, B+. Foreign affairs, neutrality maintained, but pressure mounting rapidly. I'd have to give it a D. I can't give it any more than a D. Overall grade for 1939, a year of awareness, preparation, and reversible change. I think basically 1939, most historians would probably give this a B. Everything was working well for 39, but I think the preparation was too slow, and they still had their head in the sand about going to war. I would give it a C. So 1939 was the last year America could still say, we're not at war. But it was also the first year Americans truly understood that war was coming. The world had crossed the line, and soon, whether by choice or necessity, America would follow. I'm Larry Reidy. This is Larry Reidy's America's Journey to 250. And I can't wait to get to 1940 and 41 and the war years. But thanks for listening. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And I will talk to you on the next podcast.